Hi everyone, it's Molly. Hope you're doing well. In light of the United States celebration for Independence Day, 4th of July, I wanted to take you on a little journey through 4 different paintings and 4 different techniques using variations of red, white, and blue. This first painting I did years ago, and this is an abstract painting with acrylic paints and brushes. And I wanted to have a beautiful red, white, and blue theme. The red that I'm using in this one is a pyrrole red, and I'm also using a crimson color. And my blue that I'm using is a phthalo blue. Now, when you think of red, white, and blue, normally most would think of the phthalo blue and the pyrrole red. But as we go through the series, I want to give you some options for different color variations that are still similar to red, white, and blue, but can be really pleasing to the eye. So I'll talk about those as I go. But for this original painting, I am just using very gentle brush strokes to really soften the paint that I applied with the sponge. The sponge gave it a little bit of texture, and then the brushes helped to blend it out. Now, having 2 almost primary colors can really be harsh to the eye, and that's why I blended these out with white, and it really started to soften the painting, and I think against the gray background, it made for a very interesting contrast. I will say for red, white, and blue, I don't use this color scheme often. When I went back through my videos to make this compilation, I realized that I really haven't used this color combo very often. But as I went back through these, I really enjoyed each of these paintings, and each of these techniques are so different. But here, this was my favorite part, blending these colors out and adding those bright pops of white blended in with the gray to create contrast in this painting. Looking back now, I do wish I had stopped maybe just a few lines earlier than I did, but I am very happy with the final result of this one. This next one is a little experiment that I did with a wandering ring pour and a wandering straight pour. And in this one, the blue that I'm using is a turquoise green color and a sky blue. And this completely changed that bright, beautiful red color that was there. You can always think outside the box, and it doesn't have to just be a primary red or a primary blue. It could be even a pink or magenta color, like I'll show you a little bit later. There's so many variations of color that I think sometimes we think it has to be what's right out of the tube or what the most predominant color in that field is, and it doesn't have to be. You can get so creative with different variations and shades and saturations of colors that are still in that same color group, but will give you a completely different effect. I really enjoyed testing out these 2 techniques with the exact same colors, and both paintings I'll show you at the end came out totally different. It was super interesting. The straight pour gave a much more feathered, soft design, and the wandering ring pour gave a lot of depth and a completely different vibe with the harsher lines that were there. Much more geometric and linear in that one. But both of them came out so cool. And the Pyrrole Red is one of my favorite reds to use. It dries a little bit darker, but it has this almost orangish undertone to it. And you can see it in this painting as well. That is the color that I'm using. And at the end of this one, you will see how rich this red dries. The brand of Pyrrole Red that I use is Amsterdam brand. I've also used Primary Red in Creative Inspirations, and it has a very similar color to it as well. For this painting, I'm using a darker blue, so I'm using a Prussian blue, and a lighter blue, and then a middle blue that I made. And I used a little bit of white and silver in this one to make it shine. And the red was my predominant base in this one, which is also very different for me. There's so many combinations and so many techniques that you can do with just one color set. And it's actually a great way to see how the colors will play together. So if you wanted to, you could pick one different color set every few weeks and do multiple techniques with it to see how they blend and how they work. So for paint and water like this painting, you do have to think about how the colors will blend together. And that is a bit different than if I were doing a ring pour or something with a thicker technique, even like a swipe, because those colors don't mix as much. So each technique has so many different options and parts to think about. And color blending and color mixing is definitely one of them. You can see how beautiful and rich that Pyrrole Red dries. And the dark blue was a perfect contrast. This final one is a little bit out of the box, and there is no actual red, but I do have some magenta colors in here. And some would argue that magenta is one of the primary colors instead of red. And I often follow that line of thinking as well, because you can get so many vibrant colors mixing magenta with the other primaries rather than mixing a primary red. In this technique, I used my swipe technique method, but I made it as the backdrop, and I'm going to use my brushes to paint in some flowers. I start with the branches, and then I'm going to go in with these beautiful abstract flowers. So throughout this video, I hope that you have thought about the different colors of red, white, and blue that you could use, the different variations, some different techniques, and how you can apply those techniques. And as always, I hope that you have fun doing it. Experimenting for me is one of the best parts about acrylic painting and about fluid art. And experimenting with color is so much fun. So these were all definitely a little bit out of my comfort zone, but each of them is so unique, and I enjoyed making every single one of them. So wishing you, for those that celebrate, a happy 4th of July, and for those that don't, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on red, white, and blue. Thank you everyone for watching. Enjoy the rest of the video. Happy painting.